Okay, so in this session, we're going to talk specifically about why members cancel. Now, if you're a gym that currently has an endless amount of new people coming in through your gym door, you've got, frankly, all the sales that you could possibly need, then that's great, and that's really great. And I would argue that you're probably not thinking too much about the people that have cancelled. A lot of your energy is understandably maybe going to be on how do we just get more new people in. And here's where I think a lot of gyms are kind of missing a trick. And the reason why they're missing a trick is because ultimately a member is joining for a very obvious reason. And they're going to leave for some very obvious reasons. And in this session, what we're going to talk about is how whether getting ex-members to return to your club is currently a focus or not. You want to know why members are cancelling, because once you can elicit the feedback as to what makes a person leave, it is easy for you to get a person to stay. And the danger is that if all your efforts on how do we just get more people through the door, then we all know that the attrition rate of members in gyms is increasing because there's more gyms, there's more choice, there's less there's not really the contracts that there used to be, so it's easier for people to kind of get in and get out. Pay as you go, kind of month to month is more normal. People's attention spans are shorter than ever. So, as a result of, technology and mobile devices, people are kind of, becoming quite transient. People are moving a lot more as well. People are, moving towns, with the way the housing market is. So there's various different reasons why people will potentially cancel your gym. But what I really want to focus on today is some of the psychological reasons, some of the psychological factors that I've found with the clients and the clubs that I work with are reasons why people cancel, and the things that they're going to be really common sense to you, but not necessarily common practice. And they're things that if right now you don't have a strategy in place for retargeting your past members, is going to allow you to potentially bring new members into the club that have already been there before, and do that at a considerably, if not zero cost. Because if you're using today's technology, if you've got an email list, it's likely that those ex-members are on that email list, and you haven't got to pay for advertising to get them back. So there's a huge amount of benefits to retargeting ex-members. But there's fundamentally some psychological factors why members leave. Now, there are obviously some physiological reasons as well. So we're not necessarily talking about, how do we get back the husband and wife who have relocated 200 miles? We're not really talking about those type of people. We're talking about the people who've left because for motivational reasons, for psychological reasons, for health reasons, people that are still in the area. Maybe they've joined another gym, or worse still, they haven't joined another gym. They've just decided the gym isn't for them. Those are the people that we're specifically wanting you to think about and sort of pay attention to through this session. And my recommendation is, as we go through this session, make lots of notes. But like I say, a lot of this that we're going to be covering is very common sense stuff, but not necessarily common practice. And it just comes from my experience of, over the past 15 years working with 350 health clubs, some of the big brands, some of the independent operators, and personally selling over 15,000 memberships myself. So that's where, in case you're thinking, where's the credibility come from? So let's get into it, shall we? So if we talk about some of the psychological reasons, you may have seen this type of image before, the kind of tip of the iceberg. Now, a story that I kind of want to tell you, which I feel will amplify this point, is a few years ago selling gym memberships in a gym in North London. I came across a lady called Sandra. And Sandra came in for a tour, a little bit guarded, a little bit defensive. You may have heard me tell this story before. And to cut a very long story short, she said, I've only got 10 minutes. If you could show me around as quickly as possible, that would be great. So I proceeded to show Sandra around. And at the end of the tour, it seemed like she was just going to leave. And I don't feel like I'd really got to know her. I'd asked her a few questions, but she'd not really been willing to give anything away. But before she left, while she was in reception and I handed her a price list, we made eye contact. And we made eye contact, and at that moment, I decided something happened in me, something triggered in me that's actually turned out to be almost like a life-changing, quite a pivotal moment. Is that I said to Sandra, I looked her in the eye and I said, Sandra, before you go, I'm really curious to know the real reason why you came in today. Now, I don't mean the 10 minutes, show me the prices, lose a bit of weight. I would love to know if, we're probably never going to see each other ever again. So I'm going to kind of go out on a limb here and say, why did you really come? Why did you really come in today? What is it that you really need help with in your health and fitness? I would love to know, because I would hate for you to just keep bouncing around looking at other gyms. If you felt like this is a place that you could see yourself working out, I would love to know why you really came so I can help you with that problem. And she just looked at me and she said, well, firstly, no one's asked me that before, so thank you for asking me that. She said, you want to know the real reason? I said, I want to know the real reason, like not the surface reason. I said, I want to know the real reason. She said, the real reason is, she said, and then she stopped and she got quite emotional and her eyes filled up with water. I'll never forget. And she then said, can I sit down? I said, of course you can sit down. So we're in reception. So there's a seat there and there's no one else really around at this time. So she sat down and she said, the real reason why I want to lose weight is because 2 years ago I was in much better shape. 2 years ago I was 2 or 3 dress sizes lighter. I felt better about myself. 2 years ago I was in a job I really enjoyed. Me and my husband were traveling a lot. I had a really great relationship with my daughter, and said now my daughter doesn't want to spend time with me. We argue all the time. Me and my husband, she said, haven't had sex in months, and I don't know what to do. And then she just started crying. Now there is a really positive end to that story before you feel like, God, Miles, where are you taking me? I thought we were going to talk about cancelled member retargeting. There's a really positive end to the story. She joined that day. Her husband joined 3 or 4 days later. And 12 years later, they're still married and they're still members together of that gym. Why do I tell you that story? The reason why I tell you that story is because the reasons why you think a person joined your gym or the reason why you think a person cancels that gym is just the tip of the iceberg. It's just the behavior. It's just the tip of the iceberg. What you maybe don't know, which is not visible, is the person's values, their attitude, what is going on in their personal life that we maybe have no idea about. When somebody cuts you up in traffic and you maybe want to kind of shout at them, we have no idea what's going on for them. Somebody's driving irresponsibly down a country lane. For all we know, they could be rushing to hospital because they've got the call to say, your grandma's got probably a couple of hours left. Get here now. So we never know what's going on. We never know everything about a person. We never know everything about a person. We really don't. So it's really important to know that what you think you know about why people cancel is probably not the full story. Your responsibility, your duty, in my opinion, is to figure out what is really going on. And I found one of the simplest ways to kind of figure out what is really going on comes down to this model. This is the 6 human needs model, which is a model that was adapted from Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It was adapted by Tony Robbins, who is a mentor of mine. And this model suggests that, in fact, it's not suggesting, that's the wrong word. This model is basically telling us that we all have 6 primary needs. They're not choices, they're needs that we will do anything to meet. The needs all are in different order for all of us. So if ever you have wondered why can't I get on so well with that person, but then why do I get on so well with that person? It's because you have needs in different order with the first person, and you maybe have needs in a similar order, or your top needs with the second person are very similar. So this is going to probably be the key thing I want you to really think about through the process of this program, through the process of this audio, is to know that the reasons why members cancel your gym ultimately comes down to these 6 needs. Nothing else, nothing more. It's not because your car park isn't big enough. It's not because your hours are not long enough. It's not because your dumbbells are not big enough. Ultimately, people leave your gym, it's because you weren't meeting one or more of these needs. And when you realize that, it will put you in control of knowing how to bring ex-members back and how to retain more effectively in the future. So let's talk through these needs. So we have 4 kind of psychological needs, and then we have 2 spiritual needs. The 4 psychological needs are the light blue, and the 2 spiritual needs are the dark blue. So we're going to focus first on the psychological needs. So the first need that causes a person to cancel is certainty. So everybody needs to feel certain that they can pay the bills. Everybody needs to feel certain that they can put food on the table. Everybody needs to feel certain that they can, make it through the day. Like, everybody needs to feel certain that they have a roof over their head. We all have that element of certainty. Now, it is likely that a person cancelling your gym has started to feel certain that exercise isn't for them, or the gym isn't for them, or they've started to feel certain that, do you know what? Maybe I should go to another gym. I'm more certain that gym that's 3 miles down the road will provide me with a better result than this gym. I'm more certain that gym has better facilities than this gym. So the first need I just want to kind of gently just make you aware of is certainty. Your job is to make your members, or in this case your ex-members, feel certain that if they return to your club, they would get what they need. They would get the result that they ultimately are there for. And the likelihood is they cancelled because they didn't feel certain. In fact, what they felt was the second human need, which is uncertainty, which also flips as variety. So here's an interesting thing about uncertainty, variety. People go, why is this 2 words? The reason why is because, so if a person feels uncertain about their ability to achieve a certain fitness result, so let's say a person has been a member, let's say we've got a guy called Steve. Steve has been a member of your gym for 6 months, and he hasn't seen real significant improvement. Steve will start to feel uncertain about his ability to achieve his fitness goals, which will maybe make him want to cancel. Another factor for Steve may be that the reason why he feels uncertain is because he hasn't been getting enough variety. I know for a fact that whenever my gym or just exercise motivation starts to kind of nosedive a bit, I know I need to change my program. I actually have kind of look at it now. I've got a reminder in my phone every 6th week to change my training regime, because I know that on average, 4 to 6 weeks is where I start to kind of hit a plateau and I get a bit bored. At the moment, I'm in the zone. I'm probably about week 4 of the current training regime. I've got a holiday coming up, which is obviously always easier to motivate for me, because I kind of, want to get some fat off for the holiday. So always easier to motivate myself for a holiday. So I always recognize the importance of making sure that every 6 weeks I add in some variety. But you see, not everyone thinks like that. Not everyone has that sense of awareness to bring in some variety. So a key factor for you in ensuring that members stick, or actually that you get members to come back, is to make sure that you provide enough variety for members. Now, you may go, yeah, but Miles, what about the guys that just do weights every single week and they're in there and they're just plowing away and they're happy to do it? Or what about the woman who's happy to just kind of do a body pump class every single week? It's like, that's fine. But you as the staff must somehow provide some form of variety, or at least offer variety, so that people, because everyone wants variety. Like, even the people that go to the gym and do the same thing every single week, I guarantee beneath the surface, there is some form of variety. They may look like they're doing the same weights, but there's probably some program on their phone that they're adhering to. They're doing something different than they were maybe doing 6 weeks ago. Otherwise, they wouldn't still be coming. Maybe they're lifting heavier, maybe they're lifting a bigger rep range, or if they're on the treadmill, they're running further, or they're running at a higher speed, or a higher incline if they're power walking. They've got more weight on the bar in the body pump class. Variety is really important, and you've got to know that if somebody has cancelled your gym, it's because they didn't get enough variety. Didn't get enough change of stimulus. And they thought that leaving and moving to another gym would be a good thing to do. Now, me and my wife, we've got memberships at 2 gyms because we're so driven by variety. Now, we're not cancelling one and moving to the other. We've got 2 memberships because we love variety that much. I have a very short attention span, and although I'm doing pretty much the same workouts in the other gym, that different environment, that different stimuli is good. I enjoy that. So you've got to know that people want variety. And if they're cancelling your gym, you're not providing enough. Third, this gets commonly overlooked: significance. One of the fundamental reasons why people leave a gym is because they feel like they're a number and they don't feel part of something. They don't feel part of your club. I have a gym owner friend, a guy called Dave. Dave owns a gym, lovely little independent gym in Salisbury called Jimmy's. And a funny story is Dave can tell you most of the membership numbers of his members. Now, Dave's member database is in the hundreds and not the thousands, but that's not the point. This person, this gym owner, Dave, can remember member numbers of lots of his members. And it's amazing watching him reel off member numbers when they walk into the door, and they're amazed. Dave's got one of the best retention rates of any independent operating gym in the country. Why is that? Because he makes people feel significant. Now, if he didn't have that trick of, you go, Miles, I can't remember the numbers of my members because I'm a gym manager and we've got 4,000 members. You don't need to say a person's number out when they walk in through the door. It could be as simple as, hello, how are you today? What are you training today? One of the gyms that I train in, they make a fatal mistake in this area, in that the manager's office faces away from the entrance, and the manager's desk in that office also faces away from that entrance. Meaning, unless the manager turns their body to face the entrance, they will never be able to provide significance as people walk in and out of the club. Meaning, people in that club are just a number. If all they did was move their reception to front facing to the gates when people walk through the door, and if all they did was make a conscious effort to say hello to people as they walk through the door and goodbye when they leave, basically if they had a host that did that, it would slash their attrition rates. Because a primary human need is to feel acknowledged, important, special, unique, significant. And it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot. Now, men, if you're listening, if you're paying attention, in fact, this is for women as well. Every week, 2 or 3 times a week, I write my wife a love letter. You say R if you like. It's just a little note on a scrap piece of paper to tell her how much I love her and appreciate her. I've been doing it now for a couple of months. It was something I did very infrequently. I'd buy her a card and flowers every few months just randomly. But I've stopped doing that and instead started doing 3-4 times a week love notes. And I can feel her sense of appreciation, connection, touch with me is growing because she's feeling significant. She's feeling loved and she's feeling important. Members in your gym are no different. Members in your gym are no different. Even those members that tell you that you see that come in and you're like, but they never speak. They never say hello when they leave. They never say hello when they never say hello when they come in. They never say goodbye when they leave. They don't talk. I guarantee that same person has family, parents, kids, that when they go home, they can't wait to feel significant around. So you just haven't made them feel significant yet. Next, connection. Now, the people that do classes, the people that train in pairs or in groups, these people have a high need for connection, maybe higher in the gym sense than the people that train by themselves. So you may think, oh, let's just gravitate towards those. But actually, the ones that you're greatest at risk of cancelling are the ones who train independently by themselves, are the ones that train by themselves in the gym with their headphones on, who don't talk to anyone when they walk in. Those are the people that you need to make feel significant, and those are the people that you need to connect with. And significance and connection kind of dance very well together. If all you do to make a person feel significant is go over and say hello to them, is ask them, what are you training today? Do you need a spot if they're lifting weights? That will create a closeness and a union, and that will create connection. And as long as you do it in a way that is not because you have some secret hidden agenda to get them to be a personal training client, that can't be a reason for doing it. As long as it's a genuine reason for wanting to connect, that will see that person feel more inclined to stick around than the person that doesn't get any acknowledgement from you whatsoever. So another reason that a person has potentially left your gym is because they didn't feel that there was any connection and they weren't encouraged to build connection. One gym that I see do this very well is they will do a class on a Wednesday morning in the open space on the floor. And what they will do is that once they've set up is they'll go around the gym and they will go into the weights room, around the cardio, and they have this pitch, which is along the lines of, hey, my name's Dave, I'm running a circuit training class starting in 10 minutes. It's beginners are welcome. It'll give you something different to do. It's a fast workout. It'll give you great calorie burn in a short period of time. If you're a bit fed up of just, running if you're a bit fed up of being on the cardio, you're a bit fed up of just lifting weights, if you fancy a different workout today, we're starting in 10 minutes. Come and join us. And he'll do that. Dave will do that every single week that he does that class. And every single week he does that, 3 or 4 more people will stop their workout and will go over and do the workout. I know because I've been one of them. Amazing. And a brilliant way at getting people to stay rather than just kind of assuming that people that want to do a class will do a class. Because not everyone has the confidence to do that. Like not everyone, like primary school kids that start on their first day, not everyone has the confidence to go over and approach and say, hey, my name's Miles, what's your name? Not everyone has the confidence to do that. So you've got to help people connect if you want to reduce cancellations. And then the last 2 needs, which are the spiritual needs, number 1 is growth. This is very common sense. Everyone wants to grow. Now, whether we call, growth is, whether it's weight loss, whether it's weight gain, whether it's work on biceps, whether it's lose bingo wings, whether it's lose cellulite, that's all growth. That's the kind of probably the surface level thing that people will tell you why they're there. If people aren't growing, they will feel demotivated, they'll plateau, and they'll make some reason why they should leave. So it's really important that you help your members grow, because it's likely that the members that have cancelled, that are still in the area, that have gone somewhere else, they didn't feel they were getting the growth. They didn't feel they were getting the growth. Interesting story. I once had a conversation with somebody who was thinking about leaving, who said, the reason I want to leave is because, the dumbbells aren't big enough. And ultimately what he really needed was to be shown some ways of training using Olympic weights that made him realize he didn't actually need heavier dumbbells. He didn't actually need heavier dumbbells. He realized that actually by incorporating more Olympic lifts, because there was Olympic lifting equipment, he could achieve the goal he really ultimately wanted and stay. And as a result, stayed. But that takes for you to help a person see that, for you to get them to stay. And the last need is contribution, which is really all on you. The only way that this is going to work, if you're a gym manager watching this and you're thinking, Miles, this is great stuff, but getting my freelance, self-employed personal trainer to buy into this, not easy. Their attitude's just not, I could put this training in front of them, but they just won't buy in. Ultimately comes down to contribution. It ultimately comes down to you helping that individual achieve goals that are not related to the business, that are personal to them. Because if you help another person get what they want, they will help you get what you want. And so the chain goes on. You help that self-employed, demotivated personal trainer achieve in their personal life, and they will help your members to get what they want in the gym. I spoke to one just the other day who said, I really enjoy the clients that I work with, but at the moment I just can't be bothered to just put myself out there and get more. Can't be bothered to put myself out there and get more. I feel demotivated. And I know why, because he's feeling a lack of significance, a lack of support in his vision from the people that are the kind of the hierarchy of the food chain. Now, don't get me wrong, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. There's a point where people have to take responsibility for themselves, but the first rule of leadership is everything is your fault. So if people aren't working the way you want, that's on you. If you've got kids and they're not doing what you want them to do, that's on you. If you've got personal trainers in your gym that aren't responding the way you want, they aren't working in the levels, they're not supporting your members in the way you want, that's on you. You've got to take responsibility. First rule of leadership, everything is your fault. So where are you currently not paying attention to those needs? What needs to change? What do you need to do differently? Which needs are you giving the most attention? Which needs are you giving the least attention? I can tell you that if you kind of almost take a screenshot of that and stick it up in your office, I run full workshops on this. I did a workshop with Fitness First about 18 months ago on this particular, just this model. It is, like I said, everything I've just shared with you, that you already knew all that stuff, but common sense isn't always common practice. So you've got to actually apply that model for you to reduce your cancellations in your gym. So let's talk about follow-up, because we've talked now about kind of why people cancel and the psychological needs as to why people cancel. Now let's talk tactically about, okay, well, what do we do to actually get members to come back? Like, how do we actually retarget members so they actually come back? And one of the first things that we've got to do is we've got to follow up. One of the first rules of sales is follow up. Now, I always say that where a lot of people get sales wrong is they have the wrong outcome. So I went to a conference a while ago, and one of the guys said, the reason why people fail in sales is because they make they're focused on the sale like maybe a man is focused on marriage on the first date. You know, if a guy is focused on marriage on the first date, unless there is genuinely an instant attraction, that could be perceived as almost too forward, like it's too many steps ahead. You know, it's too much pressure. It's too, what do they say? Too fast, too soon. So your contact, your communication with cancelled members has to be like a first date. You've got to reset. You've got to go back to like what it was in the very beginning, which means you can't just say, call them up or email them and say, hey, like, we've got an offer to rejoin. Are you up for it? Because the problem with that is that's like saying, hey, like, I know this is our first date, or I know we had a first date before that didn't go well. Do you fancy getting married? The person receiving that's like, we've already had a date, and I left. So I'm not going to get into bed with you now. I'm definitely not going to marry you now. Are you guys getting this? Is this making sense? Rhetorical question, but are you guys getting this? Most people's problem with sales is that they're too far ahead. So you need to make service senior to selling. Most people are looking at how they can propose marriage, when what you need to be just looking at is how can I just rebuild rapport? How can I how can I fix this broken thing? This person was a member for 6 months. Don't know why they left, but they did. How can I fix that? And it shouldn't be, how can we get them to rejoin? It can be just, firstly, what you've got to do is you've got to go, what was the problem? Like, what did we do wrong? So that when you follow up, the key thing is you want to elicit feedback. Now, this is gold. This is really crucial, because some of you may have kind of saw, cancel member retargeting, thought, yeah, like you're rubbing your hands thinking, how do we get all those ex-members back? Here's the key thing. It isn't about getting them to all rejoin. It's ultimately about eliciting feedback. It's ultimately about eliciting feedback, because Ken Blanchard said feedback is the breakfast of champions. Meaning, right now with your gym, there are potentially hundreds, if not thousands of people that have cancelled, and you don't know why they left. And if you only had half of them, if you only had 10% of them tell you why they left, you could use that feedback to dramatically improve the quality of the service that you provide in your club. There could be a glaringly obvious reason why people left that you do not know. You have no idea why people are leaving. The vast majority have left for this one reason. Maybe elephant in the room. Maybe there's your gym manager. Maybe the 10% of your gym of your ex-members tell you we left because you changed managers and we didn't like the new manager. Imagine if you had that feedback. What would that do in terms of positively impacting the retention of your existing members? Let alone potentially getting the old members back, if you were maybe willing to, if you knew that was a problematic manager, or you knew that manager maybe just had a way of dealing with people that could be rectified if they knew that there was a problem. Feedback's the breakfast of champions. You've got to be willing to elicit that feedback. Now, here's the key thing about getting feedback. You've got to be willing to hear things that you don't like. You've got to be willing to hear things you don't like. A few years ago, can't believe I'm telling the story. A few years ago, I was, I'll say, chasing the CEO of a very well-known UK gym. Couldn't get hold of him. Sent him letters, emails, Valentine's cards. That was a marketing trick, by the way, just to be clear. And I couldn't get hold of him. One day, his secretary, I think she was his secretary, called me and said, Miles, won't tell you his name, on the phone. He wants to talk to you. Now, At this point, I'm doing backflips because I think this is brilliant. This is great. He's finally responded. This is amazing. To which he gets on the phone and says, and I quote, "Miles, this is not a positive phone call. I'm calling you to tell you to stop calling me because it's verging on harassment, the amount of times that you're trying to get hold of me." I was mortified. Absolutely mortified. Here I was thinking, I've just finally got hold of this dream client, but he was not ringing for the reasons that I thought he was ringing. Anyway, to cut a very long story short, it was the first time we'd ever spoke, and I said, "I'm ever so sorry. Forgive me, it's not the exact words, I can't remember, but I'm ever so sorry. The reason why I carried on chasing is because I hadn't actually had any response from you, so I didn't even know if you were getting my communication. So forgive me for the relentlessness of my commitment to get hold of you, but I know I can help you with your gyms." It was genuinely born out of a real passion for this because, my mum had a gym for 20 years, it closed down. I'm really passionate. If I see something that I think is wrong or that I could fix in a gym, then I want to make sure that that person gets that feedback, whether I help them or not. I want to help. Like, I just want to make sure that they get what they need so that they can make their gym better and serve their members better. So forgive me. It came with love. Like, my intention was not to upset you or offend you. It was genuinely to help. To which he responded, "Miles, actually, I'm sorry because I didn't realize that's why you were doing it. I thought you were just trying to just sell me. I didn't realize," he said, "you're actually exactly the kind of person that I really want in my organization. When are you available to come so we can sit down and meet and have a conversation about how we can work together?" Boom. But that conversation could have gone a totally different way. And so what I want you to know about rejection, because I get a lot of it, is this. This is on my fridge at home. Rejection is neither an indication of value or talent. Remember, if you believe what you have to offer is great, don't stop offering it simply because somebody rejects it. Many people just simply are not very good at recognizing talent or value. It doesn't mean you won't eventually find an audience that will. What this means is, when you are following up cancelled members, you are inevitably going to get rejection. If you are calling them, you're going to get kind of hung up on. If you are emailing them, you may get some really negative feedback. But what I really want to stress is that rejection doesn't mean that's not a reflection of you. It just means that your human needs are in a different order to them. Their human needs are in a different order to you. And it may be that they had such a bad experience, they're not willing to let that go. But actually, one of the key things about these calls is not actually to get members back, it's to elicit feedback. And kind of skipping ahead to this slide, statistics show that, and if we're talking about calls, it probably can be the same for emails as well. If we're talking about calls, it takes 100 phone calls to ex-members to speak to 10 of them and for one to rejoin. And I would actually stress that this is your goal number here. Retargeting ex-members is actually less about getting sales and more about eliciting feedback on how you can improve the club for the future. But what I found is when you speak to these 10 and you elicit feedback on how you can improve it for the future, what often happens is, not just generally what happens is, out of the 10, all 10 will give you some form of feedback on why they left. And there is a script for that I can give you. If you're going to do this as calls, if you email me, miles@milesmorecustomers.com, I'll send you a script that I would use, an ex-member script. And in fact, I'll probably upload it into the members area. One of them will rejoin, but the other 9 are going to give you feedback that will significantly impact your ability to retain the hundreds or thousands of members you've already got. So what you've got to know is cancel member retargeting isn't just about how you can be more profitable from getting cancel members back. It's actually about how you can elicit feedback to improve the club so that the members you've currently got stay. That's the primary reason why you would, why you want to be calling ex-members. And that's it. We skipped over a couple of slides that I didn't feel were relevant for the context of where we were. That is pretty much it for this particular session. I hope you've found this useful. Remember, it's never, when people cancel, the reason why they tell you that they're canceling is very rarely the full story. There's always something deeper going on, human needs, values, beliefs, etc. Go back and re-watch this session, re-study it. This isn't a one-time thing. A bit like when you go to the gym, you don't get the ideal body just from one visit. You obviously understand that you need to go multiple times, month after month, year after year, to get a great physique, to get great health. Repetition is the mother of skill. So go back and revisit this session, and I promise you it will positively impact your ability to get cancel members back and retain the current members that you've got. Hope you found this session useful. See you on the next session. Take care.